Today, we're diving into the transformative world of 5D Ascension.
Is 5D even a real thing? And if it is, how can you tell if you're living in it?
Who are ascended masters and how can they help guide us in our path?
And what tools and techniques can you use to raise your consciousness?
All this and more coming up on Leading Out Loud.
There are so many people that are disconnected from their internal guidance. My mission is to change that.
I don't just talk stuff and repeat stuff. I'm living this stuff.
I'm your Tarot Master and Bad Vibe Blaster. And you can thank me for covering your astro.
Leading out loud. Leading out loud. Leading out loud.
Hello, friends. Welcome to Leading Out Loud, which we affectionately call LOL. It's been another week of hell. And my mystical posse here. Hi, everyone. How was your week? The energy was, we had, just real quick, we had Lionsgate last week, and the energy was funky. I got all reports in. Just wondering what you guys picked up on. Was it, I know Scott put out a video just that went, viral in his world, right? Oh, yeah, it did. You agree at this point, dude.
Sure. Bound and gagged, sure.
Yeah, totally. But no, seriously, folks. I mean, opening of the show last week, I think, was the Lion's Den, not Lion's Gate. Like it was, everyone was moody. Everyone was like me. And in many cases, the me was their first time speaking up, right? But at this stage, it's annoying. Right. Just like in the, just to manage that when you maybe work through that part and others haven't. And the Leo season really pushes home, like where the heart's missing, where the heart's not getting what the heart wants. So there is that lion with a thorn in its paw kind of side of it. And I felt that was the part that came out for Lionsgate with the people I knew. What did you guys experience?
I had a great week. So I had, and specifically that day was great. So I thought it was a weird week overall, but that day, 8/8, I got like really good news on that day. And then, so like good things happened there. And so I thought it was a great week.
Yeah, I ate on 8/8, so I had a really great meals on 8/8. I've this week particularly, to answer your question, was kind of like sluggish. But I think those are times to kind of reflect, on things, and so I think that when people set their intentions on one thing too, that could also amplify the energy or exhaust it. So, I think it was a good reflection period.
Yeah, I had a fantastic week. I was on vacation at the Jersey Shore, so can't beat that. And so I do actually, I really agreed with what you said, Christopher. I mean, I do feel the serious energy more in July, like we talked about last week on the show. So it's really interesting to hear all the controversy over that. But, I believe in like the intention behind it. So if you really wanted to manifest on Lionsgate, more power to you. Yeah.
Well, I actually feel, the astrology is that your heart opens. That's the part of the week that I was seeing too. Your heart is forced open in Lionsgate. 16 degrees Leo is the heart opening. 17 is surrender and jump. Like 16, 17 is like kind of like the falling in love that people find when they decide they're in love with each other, where you just like, fuck it, I'm gonna do it. And that energy, like on a heart that's closed or on a heart that's bitter or on a heart that's hurting, it depends on where you are to where the energy goes. Right. But I do feel like everyone was opened up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely an open heart feeling, really wanting to shine, really wanting to be seen. I was feeling that a lot as well.
Mm-hmm. Open heart surgery.
Painful for you then.
Without anesthetic. Okay, so
raw natural.
Well, moving on to this week.
Okay.
I think, actually last week. So the astrology says that last week was the deciding that you deserve more. Right. So basically like, okay, in all areas of life, relationships, you can play it out in any scene, in anything you have in your life, but you realize I'm not getting what my heart wants. So over the weekend, allegedly, I don't know, you guys tell me, there was this determination inside the heart that like, I'm going to go for something. I'm going to go for it. Well, this week, everyone goes for it at the same time in the world, and emotions run higher because there's passion behind whatever people want. And this is the one time of the year where God like amps up the drama, because that's what Leo is. This is the most dramatic part of Leo. You know, the flamboyant, sometimes over the top, sometimes
hey.
pretty much. And so this week, the astrology shows in essence that we're going to go for it with our passion, but we have at the end of the week, on the other side of Monday, when we're live next week, we have a full moon in Aquarius, which is going to be quite a test. So that's a teaser for next week. What are you guys picking up for this week?
You know, I feel, this week primarily, like I've been saying repetitively for the past 2 weeks, because of course, things don't massively change week to week, but like bringing attention to, unwanted things or things that you have been pushing under the rug, and also bring attention to your heart's desires. So, but I think that realization comes to that pivotal point this week where you can start putting it into action, and I think that now people are feeling more determined. People are feeling more about being more extroverted in a sense, right? Really getting the world-renowned attention. So I think this week is where it kind of peaks in a sense of become more of an expression, less of the idea. Button there.
I wish I could remember what I said this morning about the Six of Pentacles, because it was really good. But we have the Six of Pentacles and Ten of Cups. So Ten of Cups is definitely more joy, happiness, and peace. I was saying something this morning about, this guy here, he's got this like thing in his back pocket. And I think, we think of a person having something in their back pocket as like a bad thing, meaning they want like something more or, extra, or they have hidden motives or something. But again, there's something like popping into my head about like something being more than you actually want it to be. So I think people, if you're working towards your happiness, joy, creating happiness in the world, your own happiness, that you will discover more with the Six of Pentacles.
Well, that's kind of what Leo says. I mean, Leo, you get something, it becomes infectious. It starts to multiply.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I was definitely getting more affirmation from what the angel said last week about how this is a really good time for reassessing your plans and your commitments. So be objective in this process. So like Christopher was saying, like a lot of people have a really open heart. They're really speaking loudly, like that lion's roar. And we want to make sure we're also stepping back and taking that 30,000 foot perspective and being realistic about how you continue to give energy to things. A lot of people, the angels are saying, have overcommitted themselves, and it's time to slow down and add more fun to your daily routine. So just be careful you're not romanticizing relationships, you're not getting caught up in nostalgia, and really be objective about that. In fact, Scott, I've got another pocket affirmation for you if you want to do the abbreviation for me, because we do want to trust these slowdowns, and we want to make sure that we are planning. We are trusting that the seeds we planted, they're gonna come to a good harvest. So the pocket affirmation, if you want to write it in the comment below this video, I invite you to. It's I easily release unnecessary burdens. Write that in the comments below this video, because we need to do that. Yes, I rub. I knew you would like that, Scott. I rub. I easily release unnecessary burdens. Yeah.
When you get rub downs, you send to release. So that's good way of remembering the I rubs.
Just relax. Use that RE of all these retrogrades, right, Christopher?
I rub. I rub.
Yes.
I rub. I rub.
Hey, I tried different words, but the angels wanted me to use that one. So here we go.
Those angels.
Yes.
And I'm wondering, if it's a 30,000 foot perspective, where's the angels? 40,000?
Well, I mean, they're right there with you, giving you those nudges. If there's something that's not working, this is the time right now. Like, slow down. And are you taking the time to play every day? Like, I have a puzzle that's always going in my living room, and it's kind of annoying because it's in the way of everybody's stuff. But if I have a few minutes to sit down, it's fun to do. Like, those little things like that can really help in this energy.
Well, that's remarkable, because I mean, this is the time of year where I don't know, what was that, Slinky falling? This is the time of year I notice, like, these last degrees of Leo are the lazy Leo, lazy river Leo, like where things. Remember in the summer, you're just like, oh, school's coming up. I know it. And like
it's the summertime blues, right?
Every minute turns into like 5 minutes. You like look at the clock; it hasn't changed. Like time stops this time of year. I'm always moving really, really slowly, anyway. So I don't think people have a real choice in the matter. But
Saturn retrograde.
Yeah, and well, I think it's just to put a cherry on the conversation, you've got to figure out what your heart wants. You have to go for it. And with all the steps being 20 and, so in all 21, 22, 23, it's how I feel about and how I feel about and how I feel about and. And so you're literally like in a sort of spiritual week where it's almost like you're deciding whether or not you want to get married. I mean, there's some sort of calling of the heart that you're serious on. And yes, take your time. I concur. Moving on. And I'm not quite sure exactly here. Well, we're just going right into the topic, and I forgot to tease it earlier. So here's the first chance you're going to hear about it. We're talking today about 5D and Ascension. That's our main topic today. And we want to share our experiences on the topic. And one of the reasons why, I want to do Ascension now, because we're trying to time topics with astrology a little bit. I'm taking over the show. And what I realized is, these last degrees of Leo, the truth of the matter is metaphysically, and guys and lady chime in, is that I believe that the more love and joy you have in your life, the more you're going to ascend. I basically believe the fuel is just love and joy. I know it's overly simple, but that's why we haven't gotten it. It's like it was right there all along. But in a practical sense, we have to raise our love and joy for Ascension. And so I realized, I think this is the only time of the year, astrologically, where the astrology is launching love and joy, like forcing us, which means it's sort of a launching pad for the potential for Ascension. But before we talk about that, let's define what the hell we're talking about with 5D and Ascension. So I'd love to hear all of your opinions on what 5D is. Devon?
Well, so my experience with 5D has been different from what I hear a lot of people talking about on the mainstream, because what I've been shown from the angels is there's actually so many different dimensions that's just one thing that we're all tuning into right now. There's actually multiple dimensions we can choose to step into. And with all the things that are being brought forth with quantum mechanics and quantum theory, we're going to actually find that 5D is just one tiny perspective of where we have the possibility of going. So I'm probably not the best person to say what mainstream says it is. And I wanted to hear from you guys. What do you consider 5D? When you just have to define it in one sentence like that, it's too hard for me too, from what I've been shown.
Yeah. I mean,
first chance he gets, you block it.
Yeah, you block it. Right. Yeah. It steps
we
right
talked
on
about this, Scott.
Crush me like an ant.
I thought this is my league. Yeah, but go ahead, Chris. If you're good.
No, I was gonna say is I'm here for the sins of the flesh. I'm not here for living in 5D, right? Sure. So, I think that the whole 5D thing gets overblown, and I think we spend plenty of time in 5D, the other side, and we're here for a 3D experience. So I'm just here maximizing the 3D experience, right? Yeah. But I don't know, it would be cool if we step into 5D. I can shoot like lasers out of my eyes or something. I'm all about it. I would love that superpower.
I mean, yeah, and for people that get confused about what 5D is, I think this over sensationalized in the spiritual communities. 5D to me is a perspective. When you broaden your perspective on things, you have more of an objective point of view. So like 2D, 3D is kind of looking at things kind of remotely close to you. When I have more of a 5D perspective, that's where a lot of us are psychics or mediums, right? We can also heal. We see how things are connected in our world. So that's really what 5D is to me. So, and I agree with Chris. It's like, I enjoy being in the 3D. That's why we incarnated here. But when you can understand where your desires and perspective comes from the 5D, you have a very unified, more well-rounded experience. So I think people put too much emphasis on like ascending and accelerating instead of being so connected with their physical life. I think when you're truly in 5D, you accept your physical life even more.
I disagree.
Really? That's a first. That's great.
Yeah. No, not fundamentally in every word you said, most of it, but just kidding. No, I'm totally being ranked there. I actually feel that there is an architecture of the universe, and it's basically like a spectrum of light. Just like the white light goes into spectrums of color, consciousness goes through spectrums of consciousness. And I agree, gentlemen, I'm really loving the shit out of 3D. Like, I'm having a good time. Like, I know it's why I came. I think it's a theme park. I think we take it too seriously. Right. Frankly, it's really just a theme park. This is the virtual reality, in my opinion. However, going to Reck, and when he was talking about with laser beams shooting out of his eyes, I do think there's a lot of cool fucking magic and stuff we can tap into that we're not tapping into. And I do think that there, new features come on, and I do think you have to let go of the bottom to go to the top. I agree. It's been, of course, like everything. It's like probably back in ancient Rome. It's like when the second coming, like there's always been like some age that we're working towards. in our civilization. Will we get there? Will we not? That's like built in our story. And now 5D is taking that place. So in a way, it's like it's everyone's utopia or whatever would have been in any civilization. I see that too.
Well, I would actually like to argue just with the three of you here briefly. What if the magic is in going to the next dimension? Like, why does it have to be 5D? Why can't it be like 333D? Like that's I guess where when I'm shown different perspectives and the way that we are able to use our abilities, I want to know why it has to be 5D. Now, I'm not against the idea of 5D. I think it sounds amazing and lovely. And I totally agree that we are souls having this human experience. Like we came here to have the limitations and to have the amazing, delicious things that we get to experience here. But I also want to say that, like, what if the whole goal is to be able to use our abilities to get to any dimension? Like what comes up for you guys when you hear that?
Well, but I think again, like 5D is spirit dimensionality, you know what I'm saying? So that's access to spirit, access to intuition, access to all those like higher sensories. So we have accessibility to that either unconsciously or consciously. So why not utilize that? But we're still in 3D. And so I think that, when you have a 5D perspective and you can understand how everything is connected, you're more psychic, you're more able to manipulate the energy spaces, right? Because you can see how things are working. I feel like when you're in 5D, you can be a lot quicker than other people are in a sense, and they appear to them that it's magic, but usually like your normal everyday functioning in a sense. So I just think it's what we're capable of. I think it kind of any higher we wouldn't be in a physical form. You know what I mean?
I agree. It's a gateway. I think 5D is the hallway to all. So Devon, you want to go those dimensions? You got to go through 5D. I think you have to go through 5D. I kind of feel like 5D is like some sort of this is just intuitive BS that I'm spouting right now, but I feel like 5D is like some sort of like in between conscious, like a train station of consciousness, so to speak, where everything's delightful. If you want to see the angels, it's 5 doors down. You know what I mean? Like, but I feel like to escape 3D, it feels like you land in whatever we're calling 5D right now, whatever the name is.
Well, just sight of view, right? If you're standing like on a road somewhere looking down a block, you only see a certain distance, right? So if you're in 3D, you can only probably project a certain distance before you can any longer. So I think it's just a position of perspective.
That's a good
point. And so when we send out a 3D, or maybe when we have our passing experience, then we're kind of in the astral plane spirit world, and I'm sure we can access a lot higher depending on our evolution, right? How far our soul has evolved and expanded. I always see things as perspective, and expansive perspective is how I always kind of see this thing, when it comes to these different levels.
Well, perspective is what plays into the subjective experience of it, right? Like I always think of the architecture. I want to go how God built it. I'm always curious, like, how did God build this?
I spent decades in all that stuff, and it's like it's all mind. It's all mind. The structure is the illusion.
No, I don't think so. I mean, there are people who meditate. People go to other worlds. They come back. They report. We're going to talk about ascended masters. Like, there's agreed testimony on experiences among humans.
Yeah.
How whatever is beyond that veil.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is the structure to me is what's illusionary. The experiences are the real thing. You know what I mean?
As a human, I want a structure. Okay, we're
down
here.
Give me a structure.
I want a bullet point. I want a PowerPoint.
Chris D.
I want to hear from Reck on this one. So what do you think, Reck? Is it?
Yeah. What do you think, Reck?
I think what Christopher said earlier. I think that we could, are we going to move to 5D? I think if everybody starts living in love, joy, happiness, remove that the heavy layer of the 3D, and then we are in 5D. So I don't know that we're necessarily going to be we're just going to snap out of it all of a sudden. But I do think there might be a tipping point where enough people are doing, fulfilling their heart, doing things that they want to do with life, living in joy, allowing joy to inspire them as well, which I think is a big part of it. Because a lot of people think I want to be a dentist, as I always say, but it's do they really want to be a dentist? No, they probably want to do something else, right? And so, I think until we break away from that stuff, we'll still be here in 3D,
Yeah. Well, and that actually, I appreciate all your answers on that, because it actually validates a lot of what I was feeling with it. Because what I'm shown when I see it is just being able to take your vibration through dimensions. So I think we're saying the same thing, but that's one of the big things that I love about what we talk about on the show is bridging the word gap there. Because I think even when we were talking with Lionsgate last week, it's some people are so for it and some people are so against it. And believe me, I've got some good friends that were born on 8/8, and they don't want to hear about how Lionsgate is real. So I love that we have this conversation about the interpretation, but I think we're ultimately all saying the same thing about our vibration and what we're using our abilities, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're all from the common perspective of just looking in the future and not knowing what the hell to think. Right, and we're just filling it in with content. Well, I do know, so someone commented like structure is 3D, Christopher. Okay, I'm going to pull a Scott here.
Reading the comments.
Talking as much as Scott usually does.
I'm gonna talk back. No, God has a structure. It's like vibrational. The structure is higher and lower vibration. The structure is spectrums of light. There is a structure, a conscious structure that holds it all together, and there's a consciousness that holds the structure together. It's just structured differently, and engineered probably better, right? But and this is, when I say this is the way it is. I'm actually just saying, I talk to all light workers. I study different directions. I'm analyzing where everyone seems to be seeing certain things that are common among what we're seeing, right? So here's the question. How long does it take for someone to ascend to 5D then? So if this is a possible little carnival, which I personally feel there's a whole nother spectrum out there that is invisible. So I'm going to go way off the edge and say, I think 5D, when you go full 5D, you're invisible to 3D.
I think that there are people who have achieved rainbow body, right? Like the Tibetan Buddhists, they go into meditation for a long time and they achieve rainbow body. And so they hit it like 60, 80 years old, something like that. But they have to like completely remove all attachments and do a bunch of cord cutting rituals and stuff like that. So I don't know, maybe 60 years, right?
Fascinating.
Actual timeline. I like it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's a reason that we feel like a shift around that time as humans,
Well, in the big picture, it's lifetimes, like I think now we're going deep, but I kind of feel like you come into the matrix, wherever it is, you dive in, everyone comes as an idiot novice, right? So you make tons of mistakes and tons of karma. And you spend lifetime or lifetime pretty much just getting unconfused. So it's only that final, like last 3, I think you're aiming for ascension, but it feels like it's all your lifetimes coming together into a full circle of all your stories, completion of all your attachments, and at that moment. So there's this moment of saying you're over Earth. So I think there's a graduation moment.
But that's what death is. That's what death is to me. When you die, that's when you have all those collaborative experiences of where you've come from. And that's what death is to me. Death is the awakening of such, of how much you've evolved from that point where you're at in your incarnation. So, as far as the question at hand was, how long does it take one to ascend to 5D? It really depends on the person. There's no, I would say, actual timeline, because there's different experiences. I see experiences of 5D, whether it's rainbow body or rainbow waving a flag in the streets, like me.
There's a lot of ascension going on these days.
Hey, I've ascended. So I ascended my tank top. But I think that, to me, a lot of us have, or maybe have had so many different experiences in our previous incarnations that in this incarnation, we just want to be physical and spiritual beings in the 5D, kind of cross connection. So whether or not I believe that people can have rainbow bodies and disappear, I guess.
Oh
no!
Oh, now who's disappearing?
No.
Now he just disappeared.
Punchline.
It happened.
You just got canceled by God.
Wow.
Canceled by God there.
That was
whether or not I believe in the rainbow bodies, it depends on the person's experience and what they're filtering their life through and what drug they're filtering their life through. But I think if it was common, we'd see all these really spiritual grounded people disappearing all of a sudden. We don't quite see that.
Well, we're going to be at chapter 2. We're talking about ascended masters who disappeared. So from what I understand, it's so damn tough to pass the exam. Not many people.
But Devon had an objection. I wanted to hear what you were going to say when you said,
actually, I was going to agree with you, Scott. I was going to agree with you. Yeah, well, I feel like, and this could be my bias with studying, like soul contracts and past lives and things like that. I mean, to me, I think any age could decide to transform into a rainbow body if they've had past lives where they've mastered that. So I do believe that we bring people into our lives for different reasons, and then they leave. And they do have that ability to transform that way. And it could be from the age of an infant all the way to the age of, as long as the human body can live. So I was actually going to ask Christopher if there was any astrological significance around the age of 60, since Reck mentioned 60. Like, what's the big, I know 50 is like Chiron return. 60 would be like second Saturn return. And like, what other big things are significant around that age?
In Conversations with God, which is a book I loved, Neil Donald Walsh, I think, was the writer.
Mm-hmm.
And
I love those books.
And God, we loved it. But in that book, God said, we're actually children until age 60.
Okay.
And that you're supposed to live to 120 in God's plan of Monsanto. And we just got kicked off of YouTube. So honestly, yes, Saturn's second return. Basically, what's happened by 60 astrologically sort of confirms the same thing, because the Saturn returns when you get to 30, your problems are introduced at 30, and then at 60, you solve your problems. So you solved your major problems. It's also past your Chiron return, which is at age 49, 50. So basically, at 60, you've shed the 3D baggage if you did your work.
Okay. So that's why
big underline. If you did your work, that's a big underlining.
Yeah.
Someone just asked, we just past 4D. I would say we're in 3D fourth density right now. So 3 is space, 1 of time. And so I think 4D is kind of in between the 5D, so somewhat intuitive could be 4D. You somewhat can sense things. Empathy could be more 4D. 5D is more kind of the psychic feeling of people. Someone just asked about 4D. So I think people are empathetic, and they can kind of be a little intuitive. That's more 4D in a sense. You can see an extra layer, of reality.
Actually, if there's anything hokey about this Ascension thing, it's the 4D. I've never really felt 4D made sense to me. It's not really clearly defined. It's between Ds, which is always spooky. You know what I mean?
That's what I'm saying, right? It's slightly above 3D in a sense. You want to think structurally, like you were saying before, 3D, 4D, and 5D. Talking about 5D.
I get the image, the concept, but it just is never made concrete. And then someone told me it's space, it's time. And I'm like,
no, fourth density. No, fourth density is the time. 3 space, 1 of time. That's 4 density. We're in fourth density right now, not fourth dimension. But I just see there's more to see of dimensionality, right? So I just see 4D as people who are intuitive and maybe more empathetic, as 5D is more the psychics, the mediums, the healers in all that sense, the channelers. That's more 5D to me.
I feel, talking about the 3D experience. Yes. But I'm getting kind of bored. I've been doing this for a long time. This ain't my first rodeo here on Earth.
Right. Doesn't matter.
Repetitive, and I don't like who's running for office. So I think I was going to ascend, or for me, it's like I just see myself as want to be the one the first, you know what I mean? To climb over, to probably be someone that helps people cross over, just to map that all out. That's my fascination with it. I think most people would call that nerdy and are not interested. And I think it's when you're ready. It's when you're ready to jump ship. When you've done this, you're like, okay, we've seen everything. Let's go. Like at the end of a carnival with your parents.
Yeah. I mean, I think we came here. We enjoy this Earth. We learn from this density. So people should enjoy it. That's why I said, Christopher, before, that when you're in truly 5D, you learn to enjoy the 3D. You understand you don't have to try to escape it so much, and you can play and use the magic of 5D and 3D. That's the fun. That's, to me, what real Ascension is. So it seems like Chris is more ascended because he loves the 3D.
I do.
Okay, I don't get that.
What did you get about that?
I don't know.
What don't you get about?
It must have been like a 5D question and a 3D answer. I don't know. It was kind of.
I was saying that 5D people want to ascend to 5D. Somehow they think it's a detachment of 3D. So I'm saying is when you're fully living in 5D, your purpose, your perspective, you start to learn how to be comfortable in the 3D. Is what I'm saying. So let me try to detach from the 3D world. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's sort of like if you go to high school, you can go back to your elementary school and you feel like you're the king. So yeah, I imagine. I mean, we'll talk about Ascended Masters next. In that regard, but yeah, we'll go down that rabbit hole.
Well, before we talk about Ascended Masters, though, I wanted to hear from Scott. I know he's got an amazing offer for everybody here watching. Scott?
Oh, I think they're going to roll a promo, right?
Great intro.
Wow, so professional.
Promo.
I think you sold it. Our sponsor is going to be happy.
Sold.
We're supposed to pass it. God has a message.
Scott Cruz is popularly known for his life-changing one-on-one readings to also guide in your soul ascension journey. With life readings, get insight into your relationships, career, health, trauma healings, past life regressions, and more. Want to connect with a loved one who's transitioned? Scott's mediumship session can be the gateway to you and your loved ones in spirit bridging the gap between the physical and the spiritual realm. If you want to enhance your own psychic ability, Scott's Intuition Builder session can help expand your psychic and mediumship abilities. So sign on to scottcruzpm.com to book your own personal session today.
Oh, yes. I can definitely recommend working with Scott. I've worked with him myself, and I am so grateful for all the help he has brought to me. Thank you, Scott. And definitely check that out. And as we move into the next topic here, the Ascended Masters topic, we wanted to talk about this because I wanted to hear from all of you in the comments about what do you work with Ascended Masters? Who are Ascended Masters? So we wanted to talk about that here, but we also want to hear that from you in the chat. And not everybody does work with that. So who wants to chime in first about Ascended Masters? Do you work with them, and who do you work with?
No, I'll do this all day.
I thought we had a meeting about this, guys. What's going on here?
I work with 0 Ascended Masters, so
okay, why is that?
Yeah, the wrong person to ask, right?
Okay. Why not? Why don't you?
Well, look, to me, yeah. Well, why don't you?
Why? I guess I don't allow anything into my space. So, like I've said before, I take a shamanistic approach to reading, so nothing is allowed in here.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I'm very similar to that too, but I read a lot of different, stories, different books, and there's so many different inspirations. I pull from a lot of different inspirations. And so I know a lot of people, Jesus is their ascended master, and so different angelic archetypes. So there's a lot of things people pull from. I believe personally I'm like same with Chris, I don't align with one specific one. I think anything that provides inspiration to you from a spiritual source or archetype is a great ascended master for you to learn from. So we can learn from so many different spirit, souls, archetypes.
I believe we learn from everyone, but I think as your higher third eye opens, you have higher resolution, and you start making direct calls to direct experts. And I think that's part of the, when I was first introduced to Ascended Masters, it was like this wacky church in Los Angeles that was on the 12th floor in Hollywood. Okay. And I walk into this church, and it's like all these goofy pictures of like cartoons of these Ascended Masters. I was like, this is a bunch of bullshit. Get me out of here. Like, I really just thought it was crazy. But then as I evolved in my own spiritual learnings, what I have learned is that some of us decide to be like sort of a crossing guard as your next job on Earth. Like your next job, you become a crossing guard between realities. You become like on a council that's constantly looking over the Earthlings and helping them along, nudging them, being prepared, putting, energies, putting little nudges in front of them. But honestly, from what I've learned, for instance, like I have this deck here of Ascended Masters, so I thought I'd do a little show and tell. Saint Germain is allegedly the saint that's he's an Ascended Master who has played apparently many roles on Earth that we're afraid, that we're aware of. That's probably Freudian, or him putting it in my head right there. But the point is like he just allegedly ascended, in the last 300 years. Like it was a recent thing. So this is allegedly sort of how we graduate Earth. That's how I've learned it. But I've also learned that like Mary Magdalene is Ascended Master, Jesus is technically an Ascended Master, and Buddha is an Ascended Master. These are all Ascended Masters that I've worked with, and so this idea of like all these different cultures having all these different gods, I kind of feel like this is what we're calling the Ascended Masters. Again, we're all seeing the same thing. They're exemplary human beings that somehow graduated, probably through the 5D process, from what I understand. But one of the things I know about Ascended Masters in my study, and I've been studying them deeply because I'm interested in the job. I'm just being honest. Like, wow, that'd be cool. I think that'd be really cool in the next type of thing. Is they tend to go out with a bang. Their final lifetime, they usually leave a mark on Earth. They leave their mark on Earth, like ta-da, and they're gone. Poof the light, and they're out. So I think it comes down to like the Walt Disney type of people. Don't think Walt ascended. But I feel like when you try to make a real impact in the Earth, you try to change things, you somehow understand the vibration of Earth and you rise above it.
It's interesting that you mentioned 3 of the ones that I have felt called to work with. So I've always questioned, like, well, I was born in a Christian family. I was baptized early on and confirmed in the Episcopalian faith. So I always worked really closely with Jesus, but I had some experiences with Mother Mary as an adult. And then even later, when I started really working on lucid dreaming techniques, I had a blue laughing Buddha come to me in a dream, and I didn't even know that existed. When I woke up, the dream was so real. I went and started looking, and there apparently is a blue laughing Buddha out there. I went and found like a little statue about it, but I didn't know anything about that because that wasn't where I was raised. And so I found it really interesting the way that different energies would come in to work with me during certain periods of my spiritual work and my journey. And so I did feel the most comfortable working with Jesus as an ascended master 100%. And I still work very closely with Jesus, but I've been learning about the different ways that you can bring in different energies, or they will appear at certain times just to give you that nudge, just to push you onto your path. So while I also clear my space, like Reck says, when I'm connecting and being very intentional about who I connect, sometimes the signs are just so in your face, it's hard to deny. That's been my experience with Ascended Master.
And when I always got interesting connections when connecting with Jesus. I used to say Yeshua. I don't Jesus. I feel like it's more Yeshua's the name of what we call Jesus. I always say Yeshua, because of course my interesting journey through the Christian religion and the watered down filtration system of what who Yeshua really is. When he came to me, it was different working with him. He taught me how to be free, especially through my conversion therapy experience. Yeshua kept saying, I don't care about all that. This is trivial. Like you're free. You have a purpose. Like move on to what's important in your life and embrace it all. And so that's what kind of helped me. Actually, leaving the Christian church and the real connection to Yeshua has really helped guide me into freedom, actually, and understanding what really acceptance really is, and accepting everybody for their own opinions and perspectives, and understanding it's all there for a reason. And we're all learning in different times and different paradigms. So definitely, Yeshua is a huge inspiration for me to understanding that freedom. And I also say there's my guides, even having past life regressions and working with my guides and my ancestors, they've been huge, I would say ascended masters in a sense to help like get me more information about my evolution and the fabric of reality. So yeah, there's so many different dynamics too, not just the ones we know in the physical form either.
Well, I my personal experience of them coming in has only been recent. Like I'd say recent in the last 5 or 6 years. So it was, when I thought it was batshit crazy stuff, turned out to be like, okay, like there was but I was called to Mount Shasta actually. And I found out, it's just, so this is how they enter your life. I do think they start to enter your life when you're serious about applying for the job, or wanting to do that. Like, I think they start coming there. They basically work with the master students, I guess, or the PhD students of humans. Like, I think, and that's also true, I think, for like world events. I think that they're strategically trying to help the good guys, whatever those people are, or to enlighten people to avoid pain or damage. I personally, though, only have 2 that come in, which is Saint Germain and El Moria. And it's all I can say is that for me, it's always personal. It never comes in for a reading. Like it's always something for me, not the client. They're coaching me. They're not coaching the client. That's one thing which is fascinating. And I don't feel coached by anyone. Certainly not you people. It's kidding.
Well, and that's the thing too to recognize too. Like your centered master connection is personal, and it's definitely for your own personal development. I definitely agree with that in that sense for sure. And I've had other entities and archetypes I've connected with too along the way. That's definitely brought some great realizations out. So it's all really about personal evolution, and of course it ends up inspiring and helping the collective too. That's how you know on the right track.
Yeah, a rumor has it Yogananda ascended. If you all know Yogananda, who brought yoga to the United States and really founded a lot of spiritual self-realization centers. And his last lifetime, he went out with a bang. Like he brought the energy of yoga and all the India, ancient Vedas and all type of knowledge and wisdom, including their own ascension system. And apparently, yoga is the entryway to ascension. So if you want to praise Yogananda, Master Yogananda, he taught how the body was holding tension and how it can be released. And one thing that the yoga is supposed to do is prepare you for prayer and prepare you for connecting to the other world, because it sort of breaks out the 3D and makes space for the 5D. So it's not a new concept, this ascension. We just haven't cared about it. Only certain pockets of the world have cared about this type of thinking.
Well, and there's so much admonishment that comes out when people try to talk about it publicly. I don't know if any of you have read the book called Lamb. It's a book. It's Lamb, the Gospel According to Biff. And I don't know how the book found its way to me. Have you heard of it? Has anybody heard of it?
No, but it's funny. It's funny. No.
Well, so Biff is like Jesus's best friend, and it talks about those years in the Bible that are not written in the normal Bible, and how he went off and learned things like yoga and meditation and transcendence, and he did all these studies. And obviously, it's like it's a fun, loving way of saying, "Hey, there were these other sides of Yeshua, as you say, Scott, that are not being told, that have not been brought forward in a way." And I remember reading that book, just crying, laughing, and feeling like there is so much truth in just this perspective of, this ascended master being funny and so loving and charismatic, and just all these things that we want to believe about these beings that work with us and come through to us. So I do think it's interesting, the different avenues that they come through. And I've tried referring people to this book, and some people get it, some people don't. And that's because they're just like, it depends on the path they're on. But that's why I wanted to ask if any of you'd heard of it, because it was one of those feelings, like you said, Scott, where I was like, I've always known there was this other aspect that's not being told, that's not being talked about. And this makes so much more sense than anything else I'm hearing. And it was that true, like, no, free yourself from that. Free yourself, child. Yeah, I love that, Scott.
But also too, like, I think we're forgetting too, and we so focus on so many other powers outside of us. Great to have inspiration. We're forgetting we're also ascending too, and we're mastering ascension ourselves. So we also have to understand our personal journey and evolution too. And that's when I think that the ascended masters really start connecting with you and to different levels, when you understand your own journey in that sense and how you've been ascending and mastering your own ascension. So people tend to think it's all about the higher powers, and I'm very much in agreement with Chris, saying that, like, you want to first focus on your own channel first and where you've evolved from, before you start connecting with other, entities and so forth. You
can't jump out of you. I mean, you have to bring you with you. And if you're not ready to go, you're not going. You know what I mean? Like,
but I'm saying this to people who are maybe not at that perspective of understanding that, right? Because there's so much seeking outside of themselves that we can't forget to look within ourselves. There's many people I see trying to get outside of themselves so much. We understand that, but many people don't understand that. Many people trying to reach too high, and they're forgetting where they're at. So I'm really speaking to that group of people. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, the Ascended Masters teach, and I've, some of this lore that I've been exposed to, which is recent in my life, was like, Saint Germain allegedly has been channeling through people for like the last 100 years. They've been writing down books and, channeling the books. We're in the profession. We know that shift is true, and when you read it, it's so rich. But there's a story of Saint Germain, for instance, taking this human through an experience to show this human, basically what's next. So it's sort of a tour of what's next. But together they would go and jump to timelines. They go through space time. There's all sorts of like cool, kooky magic. It looks like that you have on your ascension period. You literally have the matrix in the palm of your hand. You literally can create miracles. But Saint Germain also teaches in this one book I read that it's like, you can't just take over free will. Like, part of the mastery is understanding the entire organism of Earth and free will, and what is the divine greatest good for the person. So, there's truly a mastery of Earth, and looking at Earth as a project to develop. Okay.
Right there for a moment. That's a lullaby. Thanks, Christopher.
Yeah, thank you.
It's all woke up in class.
Wow, you calling on me? Okay, well, I would like to talk about one of the tools I've used. It's actually lucid dreaming. Do any of you practice lucid dreaming? Yeah, just actively connecting and then meditating within your lucid state. I've had some amazing epiphanies and connections that way. In fact, the story I was sharing where I saw the laughing blue Buddha, I'd never seen that image. I didn't even know that existed. I hadn't actually started studying Buddhism at that point. But that's what led me into studying it. And it's like, you can't make that stuff up. I was aware I was in a dream. And then here comes this image that has stayed with me for years. What about you guys?
Chris, I'm curious your perspective, because I know you don't deal with you don't deal with guides outside of yourself. Like, so what do you experience anything of that nature too? Like, I'm curious to know your perspective on that.
Yeah, I think like I've had a lot of weird things happen, especially in dreams. So my dreams are always, I don't know if they're lucid, but my dreams are always like super, super vivid. And so and most of the time I can't make sense of them. It's like I saw this meme on Instagram the other day. It was like these three guys playing in a bucket of water, and they were like jumping around and playing in the mud. And it said something like, when your dreams are always super vivid, but you can't make sense of them. And I chuckled because that's basically what my dreams are. But even the guide thing, I think of, the weird things that I do have is like sometimes, like one time I had this orb in my room, right? And it went like super, super slow. It like normally you see an orb, you see it out of the corner of your eye, but it's like I tracked this thing for like a good like 3 minutes across my room as it was just like leaving out my window. So like I always have weird experiences like that, and I'm like, oh, is like, what is that? Is that is it one of my guides? Is it an alien, or is it something trying to tell me something? I never know, right?
Was it gas?
In my Namaste Todays, we've caught orbs flying around me, and I think they're just like, I don't know. I think they're just like in a news article, like in a news show where they try to streak the camera. I think there's this ghost out there going, hey, like your camera or something like. But I seriously, we were keeping a vault of them that were coming in. It was so common. It was hard for me to believe, and I don't know what those particular beings are. Do you have any idea?
I'm not sure. What is Scott? I was going to ask Scott what he thinks that was, because that was my craziest experience. I literally just watched it like float.
I have different ideas because, as a kid, I saw entities, like I saw like apparitions and stuff. And then I realized they were kind of like residual energies. And then I was able to tap into a spirit in a location. So then as a medium, I get to channel and project that. So I think that kind of the first step to being in tune to spirit is you start seeing the apparitions in the physical world in a sense. So I think that a lot of times, like when there is spirit working with us, there is physical manifestation. So these orbs, I think, reflect guides, assistants that we have in spirit. And so I definitely kind of I've evolved from that. The more I've learned in my evolution, it's like really up into a knowing in a sense. And so I always feel like the physical apparitions is like level 1, of kind of tapping to spiritual connection. Then you start becoming the spirit in a sense as a channel. So at least in my journey. So yeah, I just think it's a guide, and I think sometimes they like to test us a little bit too. And sometimes it's just a gnat.
Yeah.
That was me, you bastard.
And when you're in Palm Springs, you're a little smelly in Palm Springs. There's a lot of gnats around you.
I don't know. I had a psychic feeling. No, I'll tell you, when I saw it back and kind of put myself in space time when I was taping, it felt like a fairy or something. I mean, it felt very fairy, mermaid, like magical, Aquarius.
Yeah.
It felt like a visitor, like a spectator. I don't know. That's what it felt like.
I think that maybe there's like alien beings too that somehow can walk this earth, that we get glimpses of that too. I don't necessarily know if that's spirit guides as much as like, do we have these aliens that can like be transparent in a sense and invisible, and we catch glimpses of them, because that's what maybe what 4D is, that sense of dimensionality, and so I don't know, there's so many different theories that we can think about, what these apparitions are. I just knew that I was able to read the residual energies of what happened in locations and see it right in front of me.
Yeah. So when I saw that, like right before I saw that, a couple weeks before, is when I've told the story on here before that I had a dream that was like super real, and there was like a mantis alien just standing there watching me sleep, like while I was sleeping. Yeah. And so it was like right before, that happened before I saw the orb. So I'm like, was it alien?
Interesting? It could be very. I mean, my belief is I wouldn't doubt it. I wouldn't doubt that.
Yeah, what's similar to Chris, to compare notes. When I saw the laughing Buddha, it was actually in a dream where there were like aliens coming in, and I knew they were, and I was kind of scared. And the Buddha image came to me to say, no, you got to laugh and be high vibration. Like, don't worry about this. This is nothing to worry about. And it was actually there to show me, like, you have nothing to worry about. You're protected. And at that point, that's when I started really opening up to the idea of these extra dimensionals too. Because up until that point, I was like, I feel like they're there, but I don't really want to talk about it, hear about it, or, really believe. And then that dream just like opened me up, because it's like, well, let's have fun with this. Let's trust that we're protected. So that's really interesting, the link there.
I feel it's interesting. One, it's possible that was Buddha. Like that could be Master Buddha. Like showing up in his blue self.
I felt so much love, and I felt like laughing, watching him laugh,
I get that with Yeshua. Just always cracks jokes to me.
That's Yeshua. Yeah. Is that way. Well, we were talking about lucid dreaming as a tool, and I personally don't lucid dream because my life is a lucid dream. I realize life is a dream, and that this is all not a reality. So I kind of have it in life, these holy shift moments. But as far as Ascension path is concerned, our studies, amongst my peers and colleagues, is ultimately, like, your practical approach is love. Like, the more, and this is to 5D too, this is a ladder to 5D as well. Like, the more love and joy that's in your heart, the higher you vibrate. And prayers, we've been down, I think we've been led down the wrong path with prayer. And we should talk about this tonight as a group, like, because it's, from my experience, it is not, and we talked too much before the show because now I can't remember what's on the air and what's not, but it's like, I really feel like, I really lose track. I'm like, did we talk about this in the air yet?
No, we haven't talked about this yet. Yeah.
But I feel like, especially to the angels and whatnot, there's a special prayer from my heart that gets answered.
Oh, yes.
Prayer from my mind does not. And I almost think it's like I think it's a dark Vatican conspiracy. Seriously, I'm going on the record here that we were talked in this out loud prayer, that this is the way to do it, to speak these words, this poetry, this, whatever, because I actually think that actually does not make it to God. I think that's an earth frequency, like a radio frequency. And I feel like what gets there in ascension. So if you're praying with your heart for help to ascend, I think that's an ascension tool.
Well, I think prayers of the heart. I mean, I'm sure if you were objective enough and conscious enough to understand mind prayer versus heart prayer, your prayer would probably change too. So I think a lot of this, energy is really connected to the soul purpose and the heart purpose. You know what I'm saying? I think that's what prayer really is. And so it's not about asking, it's about becoming to me. I think that's always been a differentiator for me about prayer. Not please, oh please, like I am, I will, I become. And so I think that's the state that you were talking about, Christopher, coming from the heart, is that's why it's effective, because coming from the soul divination and where you truly do want. And I think I've experienced this in the past too, setting intentions more from what my mind thought I wanted. Of course, nothing happened. But when I realized what the soul wanted, it was completely different,
It's like the, Greg Braden says brain heart coherence, that whole, you're sending out the vibration. Right. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I've always been shown too, is it's all about the intention behind the prayer. So we're all saying the same thing. If you're actually feeling the heart open up to what you want, and you're actually intentionally sending love or intentionally asking, because that's the other thing, is we do have the law of free will. So a lot of times a prayer is an ask, and a lot of times the prayer is an intention, which I think you can have both at the same time. But I do feel like it really is what you're saying, Christopher, is over the time that we've seen these formal religions teach us these prayers, people have gotten into that place of almost robotically saying these prayers and having no intention behind it, having no feeling, because that's just what they're told to do. I do still think that those very same prayers can be very effective if the person is saying it with an open heart and with the intention of really connecting. So I think it depends on the person and how you're connecting when you're using those words, because this is going to be my argument on this too. I was listening to you guys talk about this backstage. So every word, every letter in numerology has a vibration. And so if you think about it, when you're saying these words, it's just like they talk about with spells and affirmations and all these things. You're actually sending a vibration out there. But if the intention behind that vibration is not sincere, then it's not going to be truly heard. Wouldn't you agree?
I feel that, vibration, I mean, what you're saying is your vibration. And I feel like what Scott's saying, affirmation, are earth tools that point up. I don't feel that they are accessing the other side. I feel they're earth tools that point up. I do think they'll get you up. It'll work the same way, but you're going from the ground up. But I feel that, heart-based, I feel like if you're living in the mind, you're not talking to God. I just don't think
that's what we're saying.
Yeah,
that's what we're saying. I'm not talking about physical mind. Earth.
Well, prayer in the earth mind, but I do think we were given riddles and prayers and things. We're caught in the mind. We're not connecting to the heart. I mean, I've not been to one church that put me in my heart. Not one in my whole life. Talked about love in your heart. I haven't. Maybe I'm avoiding
but that's what I'm saying too, because when you realize what your soul desire really is deep down inside, you understand that it's not going to be the same as your mind desire. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I'm saying. I agree with that. I agree with you. So I'm saying the intention is the physical format of projecting it. So if you're coming from, I was agreeing with you, the heart-based, soul-based, your intention will match with your actual end outcome, because not everything is, I would say aligned in the future, but some things are. Our purposes are, and we come from our purpose. Yes, I think that's when things happen. It shakes up. That's why I was saying to you, Christopher, before, that if you have a physical intention and you realize a soul purpose, they will most likely be in opposition of each other, or there's some sort of trauma wrapped around that physical desire, and the soul cleans that shit up, said no, but this is your direction. And it's almost like, I talked this with Chris actually one time. I'm like, how much are we actually creating versus predicting? You know what I'm saying? And how much is it really aligned for us with our divine purpose? Because we do have astrology that predicts things too, and saying, here's our stars align at this time, you'll be in this energy. So I do believe there's some sort of predetermined, creations that we've done, and we, of course, render certain things along the way in our journey, that aren't, every step isn't in the stars, So I think that sometimes you come to the soul, we know that future, we align with it, and it happens. So
I think it's all the above, like depending on where you are on Earth. Yeah.
Right. And I think it can go to soul contracts too, because I was fortunate to have really positive experiences in church. I had some major like downloads, like clairvoyant moments in church, but I was surrounded by people who were there with the right intention, by loved ones, like everybody. The vibration was so high in that space. I felt safe enough to connect on the level you're talking about too. So a lot of times it's just the environment you're in, because you could say the same thing about being on top of the mountain with the wrong people. You could be in the right place, but then not surrounded by the right energies.
Just for the record, I don't think church is wrong, but I do think that there's like an evil cabal in the Pope arena, and I do think that there was some decision somewhere. I really think it's just too well designed that we were the churches talked us away from God for the most part. Right. What happened is innocent good people like yourself, Devon, ran local churches and brought God to it. Right. But that's not what Pope, that's not what, the organized religion tried to do, I think, in the controlling of humans. And I think one of the ways we've been controlled, we're talking about the path to ascension. It's not in your mind. None of the work's in your mind. The prayer's not in your mind. The mind is just a tool, like a saw and a hammer, to like work through ideas on Earth. But it's actually pretty low frequency, basic human stuff.
Absolutely. And what does man naturally try to do? This is what we're trying to ascend out of, is when you have power in a small group of people's hands, they do use it for not the greatest thing. So what you're saying is the ascension process is being able to go within and use those tools to go above. So I 100% agree.
I agree. I think that's what's mastering the Earth experience. Like you get stuck in this like flesh suit, and it's like all an adventure game of how to get out.
Yes.
Well, this would leads me to believe that, again, that, I always say we have to align the mind with the soul. So we have to make sure we understand the mind is filtering our soul experiences, which leads me to let you guys know I have a lot of great tools for Ascension on my website, where I would say I've created frequency hypnosis audios to get your brain on board. I selected handcrafted frequencies to get your mind in certain levels of perspective, so you can let the soul shine through. You don't want to let your mind be the filter to, a deterrent for your soul. And I also have hypnosis audios too on my website for relationships, love, self-confidence, all these different issues to get yourself in the right mindset so your soul can shine through. So go to scottcruzpm.com, because I've actually lowered the prices for you guys. Get a discount. Grab them on. But yeah, they're great tools. And like I said, it's very important to get your brain on board, and so into aligning the mind with the soul, because again, it's the filter to your soul. If it's fed with crap, then you're gonna be stuck in the 3D space in a sense. So
yes, order now while supplies of Scott last.
Definitely check that out.
Yeah.
Well, we doing the shoot the shifts segment tonight, guys? I was supposed to toss to that. Are we out of time? Do we know? Because I was going to ask everybody if they wanted to put something in the comments about a question they had, or.
Well, let's mine for that. And why don't we, because tonight's topic is kind of spicy, why don't we jump straight to the psychic roulette, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Because there seems to be in the studio thought that might open a Pandora's box.
Which
is
me?
Which is Scott, yes.
Which is Scott Cruz. Chris Cruz.
Chris
right.
Cruz.
Yes. So the question for everyone is that, working with Ascended Masters is great, but there's like a variety of other tools, of course, you can use to ascend. So we want to know from all of you, what tools can you use to ascend? Do you go for walks? Some people use psychedelics, prayer, meditation. And so let us know what your favorite tool is. I'm going to ask everybody here what your favorite tool is as well.
Yelling. I like to yell.
Yes, this is a good one.
But no, definitely for me, it really is when I'm really kind of really reflecting on my daily actions. I like to look about, okay, how can I have changed things? Always try to find ways to make myself better. So just self-improvement for me in that sense.
How to ascend? Is that the question?
What tools that you use to ascend,
or rituals or practices?
So for me, Ascension is a vibration cleansing and basically energy hygiene. So where I'm feeling now is like getting into the energy hygiene perspective. And I have a Buddhist chant that will snap me back into my high vibe in about 7 to 9 minutes. if that's all I have. So that's like that's a go-to tool that like brings me back maybe out of 2D. I've like melted down and lost. That's my favorite go-to. But staying connected to spirit all the time, is another thing. Like, and us being mystics and psychics, and it's legit. Honestly, I don't spend a lot of time calling home. I don't spend, I find that if you spend more time, connecting to your guides, they'll accelerate the process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, obviously lucid dreaming is one of my favorite ones, but that's not always an easy thing to do. So I would say scribing, writing things down, definitely automatic writing, or just writing down a question is really easy for me to connect. But like you said, Christopher, as far as something really fast, my favorite one is just to say, angels, please raise my vibration super high. I will say that, and I will almost immediately feel a shift. And then I can even look back like an hour later and I will see, oh, wow, I am in such a better mood for just setting that intention that I want to raise my vibration. So that's a real quick, fast, easy one for me.
Or yelling more hypnosis audios.
Just ask for it, she gets it. She just gets it when she asks. How funny. Okay. Well, one thing we want. Oh, we didn't. Sorry.
Mine is walking. So if I don't go for a walk every single day, I suffer. So definitely going for a walk.
I walk almost every day too. I love it. It's
with the lizards in nature.
With the lizards in nature, yes.
Lizard on a leash.
Lizard on a leash.
On a leash.
I could probably make that happen.
Make that a meme.
Post that. I will. We'll share that one.
Yep.
Our producer wants us to remind everyone that we're doing a special FAQ episode coming up. We're calling it FAQ about you. Now we're wanting to know questions, frequently asked questions, basically is where that comes from, that you may have. So we're asking the audience in the next couple episodes, a couple weeks, post your question you have. Like, we want to do a whole episode of just answering questions that are poignant, interesting in different directions, but please put in the comments. All right. Cause that's important. The chat's really hard to scroll.
Yeah. The comments under the video. Do we need to do a tag like hashtag FAQ or anything like that? Just so we can find it easily.
Yeah. Super smart.
Okay. So hashtag FAQ, and we'll try to address it in our future episodes. It's going to be fun.
I'll remind him at the end, Diane. But we have an exciting topic before we close the show, which is what I thought we were doing earlier. So I'm totally confused. Who is doing psychic roulette?
You are.
Wait.
No, it's Reck. And by the way, next week I need everyone wearing name tags because I'm going to get this. I can't keep them straight. I thought we were doing them. It's Musk.
Yeah, I thought that was you.
But I thought you were pitching in. I'm sorry.
Because you said you haven't done it in a while. I have to find the story. But anyway, I can pitch it. I'll come up with it.
Oh, you know it the best. You know it the best, I thought.
Yeah.
We can read it from the script that Diane wrote.
I can't find the script. We're going scriptless here, people.
Okay, scriptless.
Donald Trump and Elon Musk.
You're such a scripper.
Yeah. Donald Trump and Elon Musk were supposed to have an interview today and on X, and apparently it couldn't go through because they're claiming that there was Russian interference or somebody was interfering with the live that they were supposed to have. They were supposed to have this interview. And so Elon has come out and said that X has been tampered with or something is going on. So the question is, what happened with the interview with Trump and Musk on X?
Right. Elon says it's a DDoS attack.
DDoS.
Right.
DDoS attack. DDoS.
Yeah. Interesting. Well, I'm sure he said, well, okay, everyone. You just saw my mind go off.
I'm getting a yes. Definitely tampered with.
Yeah, I don't know. Something seems fishy too. I don't know. There's something seems fishy in the sense of like it was kind of deliberate. I don't know. Something deliberate. I feel like it's like these platforms are so well protected, so happened. I don't know. It seems tampered, but there's something fishy about it too, where it seems also.
Are you accusing Elon or someone else in Elon?
We'll just leave it at that.
He's just gonna not go there.
We'll leave it at that. Yeah, I feel like the disruption was on purpose for some reason. I'm just gonna leave it at that. I really don't know what side it is. Possibly because maybe someone feels ill-equipped or maybe ill-prepared, or more about the statement of there being a Trump Elon interview, but then also not getting the full story at the same time. So yeah, it just feels like it was a deliberate tampering for me. That's the best vibe I got on it.
Well, I guess it started late, so it was resolved. I don't feel psychically that Elon would sabotage his own stuff as a stunt. It just doesn't feel like he's got better Easter eggs than that, I feel, but it definitely feels tampered with.
Mm-hmm. Well, of course. I mean, that's what the DDoS is, but I don't know. Either they knew that what was going to happen, just it's kind of like, the Trump assassination attempt. It's like did he know about it? No, but something was fishy about it. Like, I get that type of feeling in a sense. You know what I mean?
Well, no, here's the deal. I mean, it's just one more. This is against Trump. So you got, I don't know, we got someone's answering machine.
Someone's got mail.
Oh my God, we're back to AOL. We just went through a time warp.
It's confirmed.
Well, the thing is that there was sabotage against a presidential candidate. I don't care what side you're on. It is heating up to a uncomfortable degree as far as if I were to run, which I may keep soon. I would be real nervous about being interfered with every step of the way. I don't think that, I think this is just one more evidence that there's some power, whether it's a PAC or I don't know, that is cheating, frankly.
Look, all I know is I'm talking about the DDoS attack. I just feel like it was interference and they knew. Either they knew it was going to happen, so they knew about it. That's where it fished me. Mm-hmm. Devon, what's your read on it? I'm curious.
Well, I said it was definitely being tampered with, and I did not get the feel that it was Elon Musk's doing. I felt like it was an outside interference that was trying to flex their muscles and show, hey, you think X is so bulletproof. It's not. So I do feel like it's an outside source flexing its abilities. What about you, Reck? What do the cards say?
I kind of agree with Scott. I think that this is, I don't know that it was necessarily planned by them, right, but I feel like there's just something else. Like maybe someone was late, or I don't know. It could have been a typical retrograde thing. We have the Ten of Swords here.
Good point.
So Ten of Swords could just be typical retrograde energy, but yeah, like I don't know. I don't think that they planned it, but I think that maybe they weren't. There's like some sort of other intention here. Let's put it that way.
Right. It's hard to like. I see. Right. Thank you. Yeah.
Will we ever know the truth?
We will never.
I know.
At least not
it's interesting. I'll tell you this. I mean, Musk. There's definitely a lot of energy to humble Musk. Period. There's certainly a lot of energy to humble Trump. Period. So it's not surprising. We're seeing a lot of this in waves. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we have to lead out loud and talk about it just a little bit. Like people are playing unfair.
Yeah.
For the record.
Always.
So take that. All right. So I think we're at time. What else?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
We're past time.
We're done. Yeah, we're way over. Our affiliates have shut us down and gone to the news.
Well, we love seeing everybody in the chats. Thank you guys for being here. This is so much fun. See you every week.
And one more reminder, if you have a frequently asked question, please put it in the comments, not the chat. We'd love to know what you want to know. And we'll be back 1 week from now. Remember, folks, don't put up with the shift show. Lead out loud. We'll see you next week.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.